TrekWars, Duels Across the Stars, episode 20. Dabo! Top 5 sports and hobbies.
The Olympics have reached TrekWars. Two franchises will duel it out across the stars in an attempt to gain supremacy over the other by going higher, further, faster. As Bajor prepares itself for the spectacle that is the Olympic Games, many athletes from across the galaxies congregate on Deep Space Nine before the opening ceremony. But, in a stunning move, the Dark Lord Darth Vader has entered the pod race, sending shockwaves across the station. Meanwhile, a Padawan and Ensign face off at the dartboard at Quarks to determine which franchise has the best sports and hobbies in the galaxy.
So, welcome to episode 20, and hopefully that Dabo went well.
I loved it. I was trying not to crack up.
Anyway, yeah, welcome to a 20th episode, and in honour of the Olympic Games, which will be coming out shortly in Paris, we've decided to do one on sports and hobbies as an extra attachment there. Anyway, I'm one of your hosts, Ben, and my other loving host is
Olympus. It's great to be here. Looking forward to another episode where we can pit Star Wars and Star Trek against each other once again. Star Wars, if I remember right, has been starting to creep up a little bit. Star Trek had a very strong start in the first, 10 episodes?
Yeah, one of these days I will put out the score there on the average, but I haven't got it to hand at the moment. And sod editing and putting it in later, but
I know,
yeah,
right? Whatever.
Whatever. It's a bit of fun. And to be honest, this episode is going to be one of the more competitive ones, and in sports, and it's not necessarily something usually associated with both franchises. But I think after this episode, we will work out that there are a few sports out there, and we've put hobbies in there as a extra thing. But we'll go over what that means to ourselves shortly in our own little rules section later. But I've come up with a reasonable list of sports there myself. Anyway, before I start muffling off, there, just a couple of things to add. Thank you for joining us. I'd just like to say thank you, and if you would like to subscribe or follow, it's appreciated very much. But just enjoy the ride. Enjoy the journey, as they say. Do we share our picks before we do this, Olympus?
No. I'd never share any of my picks with you ahead of this. Nah. It makes it so much more interesting doing this very, very fresh, doesn't it? With no knowledge of what the other person has. And it means that sometimes we end up picking the same choices every now and then, which is lovely. But I think, if I remember right, there have not been many episodes at all where we've picked more than one pick the same, which has kept it very varied too. So it just keeps a very genuine reaction from both of us as well as we go through this discussion.
And as you probably noticed, we've got 19 previous episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So feel free to come and look at those. That's on YouTube on TrekWars and Fantasy. And also it's on Duels Across the Stars or TrekWars, Duels Across the Stars on your podcast provider of choice. So
I cannot believe it's been 20 episodes. I really cannot believe that we have been going for 20 fortnights.
Oh god.
And it's more than that. It's more than that because we had the specials. We've had 2 specials as well.
Oh, yes. So 22 picks out there, 22 lists out there because we had the May the 4th one and the First Contact one, which is strangely quite near to each other actually.
Indeed.
So
I never noticed just how close they were until what do you call it? Until we did the episode. But I guess it makes sense. April 4th and then May the 4th.
yeah, it's yeah,
April
no, nice
5th.
to have them.
April 5th, sorry, not April 4th. Oh, terrible me.
Terrible, terrible.
Strike that,
I
cancel
know.
it, edit it out.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for watching and come and see us. Previous episodes if you like them. If you like what we see. Um, First of all, one part we do is put in a little bit of for our own picks here. It's like, do we limit ourselves to anything? What do we define as sports? What do we define as hobbies? Etc. Etc. So, Olympus, any specific rules for you?
No. Um, I have used a very. I've basically picked whatever I think a sport is, and whatever I think a hobby might be. One thing reading through these, I would say that some people might argue a couple of them might be hobbies more than sports, but I imagine the people that play these hobbies consider them sports. So I think in one way or another, all of them could interchange a little bit between whether a person sees it as a hobby or a sport. I guess what I'm trying to say is I find the whole definition very subjective to the individual in question,
Fair enough. Fair enough. Um,
which is a cheap way of
I,
me saying I didn't pick any rules.
Fair enough. Yeah, mine. I didn't really have many rules, but I kept more on the sports side of it rather than on the hobby side of it because I didn't want to make like arts and crafts stuff part of it. So, and as it's Olympics, I decided to keep it more sporty. Love arts and crafts, but it's not for, the rules for this episode is doesn't really help me for this one. So when I say sports, I am having something that is going to be competitive. Mostly that is going to be at least one person versus one person,
Cool.
or multiple people versus multiple people. There is one in there that is maybe quite as one on one, but can be competitive. Um, and I'll get into that when we get there. So,
On
um,
on that note, every single one I've done SPACs and every single one of my picks are competitive. So there you go. I had an extra ball without realizing I had one.
fair enough. But yeah, this is definitely one of my rules. Right, uh, it's rounds this one. Um, I'll tell you what, Olympus. What is your number 5 pick?
You know what? I'm going to stop us for a second before I share my number 5 pick. This is an episode on sports. And yes, it is to celebrate the Olympics, but I don't think, Ben, that we can get too far into this episode without bringing up a certain football match that just happened. How are you feeling? In fact, I'll get my Scottish accent on here. How are you feeling about that certain England versus Spain match that went on the other night? How did it go?
I didn't realise we played Spain at all. What were we on about talking about? So,
No, quite honestly,
no.
very well done.
Um,
Very well done to the Lions. They put they obviously put the best foot forward during all of their matches. And that being said, I do think the best team won on the night.
yeah. Okay. For somebody who's been around for a few decades now, it's just like I suppose I've got used to the England football team, especially the men's not doing quite as well. But it one day it will come home, hopefully in my lifetime.
Reaching
And
reaching the
bad
final.
luck.
Yeah, bad luck. Reaching the final's no small feat. They did well to get that far.
Yeah. No, definitely it. Yeah. It's
I'm sorry, that was
and
my
I
evil
on
Scot.
it. It's been a long time since I've got that upset with the football because I've got
Oh.
that used to it. But it's still it's sad. It's two finals for the men, and we've uh, lost both of them unfortunately. So it's
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Anyway, roll on the Olympics.
I'm sorry. My
Roll on the.
Scottish glee seeping through my smile there. Sorry. Um, no. Well done, England, for getting as far as you did. Quite seriously. I'll stop my banter now. Number 5 on my picks today, I have a competitive sport that we were introduced to in episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I am talking about pod racing. The original version of the Phantom Menace has a very nice sequence of scenes where you see these variety of cool contraptions that these people are riding like sports cars, only they're hovering, a bit like Wipeout. If you remember the video game Wipeout, kind of like that a little bit. And you see them racing each other. It's quite a deadly sport. They're doing all sorts to try and kill each other and knock each other out of the competition. They have a circuit that they have to go around 3 times, and it's a typical race. First person to get to the end wins, only there are no rules as to how you get there. So, aside from going backwards, apparently, I haven't seen that happen yet. So it was a nice little I'm going to call it a filler section to the Phantom Menace. It was a bit exciting. It was a little bit different. Then, in the later years, they've brought out an extended version of the Phantom Menace, which I think is on Disney Plus, and they extended the length of the pod race. And there's not too many extra scenes, but it's enough scenes for me to get partway through it and sit there going, "Can I get to the end of it now, please? I'm a bit bored now." So I can see why they decided to do it. It just feels like they maybe added a little bit too much into it. But yeah, generally, love how fast it is. I love how reckless and Wild West it is. And I love the variety of different designs of the pod races that you get to. So, all in all, that is my number 5.
Oh, I like it, like it. Glad you picked that one. Yeah, it's a good old fashioned motor race.
Yeah,
There's not much to say at this moment, but as you can't complain with a good old motor race. I haven't watched it again for a while, but F1 I did like, and I'll probably still do if I turn it on. And it's just like, but this is more eventful than your typical F1 race. So
yeah, and
uh,
what you've got, the KOTOR games give you a different version of it. They call them swoop bike races. So they're not pod racers, but it's like their own little games version of it, I guess. I didn't think about them. I included them as an honourable mention. I guess I'll get to that later, but I saw that very much as a sort of prelude to pod racing, which is why I didn't consider it for the top 5.
oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Um, yeah, at this current moment in time, I don't have much else to say, but a strong start from episode 1, starting off in our first pick.
Fantastic. In that case, Ben, give me your number 5.
We talked about KOTOR just a second ago, if you hadn't forgot already, but their version, not their version, their sequel was Star Wars: The Old Republic. And one of the games they brought into there is a game called Hutball. And okay, I am absolutely rubbish at it. Okay, if I'm a stealther, I'm a little bit better because I can go poach. But basically, it is 2 teams against each other trying to get a Hutball across the line. You can pass it, you throw it, chuck it, kick it,
Oh
because
yes,
huts get offended. Um,
I always kick it.
but yeah, but basically, it's getting it there. You can fight people. You can drag everybody around. Whatever, fighting and killing is
Hmm.
all good in this game. It's just to get the ball the other side of a line, almost American football in style in that respect. It's something, as I said, rubbish at, which is why it's at 5, but something I would like to see more in something else. So that in one of the movies or TV, or at least reference, I like the idea of it
Hmm.
as a sport. Uh, and I think when the games go well in Star Wars: The Old Republic and PvP, it is great fun in my opinion. But yeah, it's and yeah, basically you're running almost over an obstacle course to get from A to B, line to line, or middle to line, and it's not a case of you have this grid line or this pitch. So like it's a bit more of a challenge, uh, but it's a fun sport in my opinion, which I think it can be more if it goes well, it can be entertaining.
Absolutely, absolutely, it can be. And do not knock yourself down. I have played plenty of hutball match with you. You are very good, especially at the stealthing and the goal sneaking. Whenever you're a stealther character, which by the way I think is just brilliant tactics more than anything else. That's the way to
Yeah,
win, and you feel so good when you win. The only thing I'd add is that there's what, three hutball maps I think at the minute in the Old Republic that they cycle around, so you do have that little bit of variety because each map has different obstacles that you have to try and avoid, and obviously different routes to get
yeah,
from one side to the other. Um,
yeah. I can think of two. There is probably a third one. And actually, thinking about it, yeah, there is. Yeah, one, but they are great fun. And yeah,
mm.
if you get a couple of teams you have the fetchers, you have the people on the line, one or two maybe, and then you have the people who pass can chuck it up uh,
Or if you get a
there.
pre-made team, pretty much a full pre-made team against you, you're in trouble because they're all talking. They all know what
Oh
they're doing, and yeah, they wipe the board.
yeah,
It's good fun
oh
though,
definitely.
really good fun. I'm so glad you picked that. That was a curveball right off the bat. So my
Oh,
number
I'm
four.
glad I
Oh, sorry, you go
yes
first.
please. No, I'm glad I could put the curveball in there, and I wonder if that's a prelude to anything, to be honest.
You
But
never know. You never know. Although I will say, there you go, right at the start, 2 votes for Star Wars.
ooh, let's get
Mm.
going for 8 more picks to have. So
Yes, it could all change, and I'm going to change it a little bit with my fourth pick. I'm going to move us over to the Star Trek universe, to a sport that we first and possibly only see, but it is referenced again in the future in Star Trek The Next Generation when Will Riker suits up and jumps onto the pad against his estranged father to fight out in a match of Anbojitsu, which is meant to be, and this is, I'll get to why I picked this in a sec, but it's meant to be the master of all martial arts, incorporating all of the key martial arts and pulling it together into one. Now, bear in mind that I train Shotokan karate, and love it. I'm very traditional with it. Um, and I did that as a child as well. When I first watched this as a kid, and I saw them all suited and ready to go, I was like, "Ooh, this is like futuristic karate. Let's see what this happens." And it's basically a game of flipping gladiators.
yeah, gladiators with blindfolds and a thing to trying to work out where your
Yeah.
opponent
Now
is.
I
But
did
yeah,
love that. I did love
yeah,
the visors so they can't see a thing. And they've just got these double-sided sticks. One side has sensor, so that's how they work out where someone is. And they have to flip the stick around and then hit the person with it. And of course, the other person's hearing when the sensor goes zoom, and they can just move out of the way. um,
yeah,
it does look genuinely quite fun. I would love to have an opportunity to actually have a few rounds of Ambujitsu. Um, that being said, um, as a master of all martial arts, maybe not. But it's maybe not a martial art that as a kid I thought it might be geared up to be. And I've just remembered as I was talking, we do see it a second time. We hear it referenced several, but we see it a second time in Lower Decks. I forgot about that until I was
okay,
talking about it. Mariner was letting Boimler and Brad Boimler and Rutherford. Sorry about that. She was saying she was letting them off easy because they've been practicing it and they finally get a kick in and knock a tooth out. And she's like, "Oh, now I can be like, I can properly fight you." And she absolutely beats the living daylights out of them, the poor guys.
Yeah, I think it's that one a game that would be fun to have a go because there's got to be some sort of skill for defense and attack in that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, is it that the new uh, the martial arts to beat all martial arts? Yeah, I'm not convinced, but no.
No.
So
But it does look like a hell of a lot of fun. I really want to do it
definitely,
sometime.
yeah. No, I would love to. I'd love to give that a go. As I said, the tactics of working the defense. It's like, do I get ready to jump up high? Do I get ready to duck? Do I just move slightly to the
Do I try and
left?
block
Do I?
it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Or do you put your stick out to just, like try to get in the way of sensor so you know where the stick is maybe. Yeah.
Or is your defense a good offense? You hear the
Mm.
sensor. You can work out roughly where they are based off that sensor. Do you have a go and try and get in first?
Yeah, definitely. No, I like the idea of that. Definitely. So yeah,
So
my number four pick is pardon.
I was going to say, so your number 4 pick. What
Yeah.
is that?
So my four pick is not necessarily quite as violent, but if you're doing it completely wrong, it will be. Um, and this we referenced in the intro, and that is my only game that is in the real world, or as in our reality, and that is darts. Um,
Nice.
so used in Corks in Deep Space Nine, brought in there by Miles O'Brien, I believe, and used with Bashir, and occasionally the odd other person. I think in a Wolf chucking a dart at the dartboard and embedding it in there. I used to have a dartboard as a kid, I've been thinking I should get a new dartboard and put it up in my house somewhere.
Oh.
But I can remember having a dartboard and I loved it to bits. Um, Never really pays in the pub that often, to be honest, if at all. It's probably
Mm.
been 10, 15 years since I've done that. But it it's something I like. It's the skill of trying to get it the highest points and guessing the right points. Basically, you've got to get to zero before your opponent by taking it off there. And I think it's a very skillful sport and a nice leisurely sport as well for going with friends in the bar or cantina. And yeah, I really don't have much more to say, but it is also a good discussion, a good game to have where you can get the characters talking to each other and expressing themselves, and you can build the story and comments around them having their leisure
Yep.
time, which you
I
sort of can in some of these other games, but not quite as much.
mm, mm. I loved watching Bashir and O'Brien playing darts in Corks as often as they did, as well as some of the other characters. My dad played darts when he was young a lot. He won a few trophies. He was in the sort of local leagues. Um, and I'm nowhere near as good, but occasionally I do pick up a set of darts and have a practice. I don't have my own board, but my dad does, and as I said, I just love it. I was on work night out a month and a half ago, and we went to a dart club in where were we? Was it Liverpool? No, Manchester. We're in Manchester. And there's a dart club. I can't. It might actually be called Dart Club. I can't quite remember, but it's all digital. So you've got a normal dartboard, normal darts, and you've got a variety of different games to play. And the screen comes up on top, and you can select them all, and it's registering exactly where your dart's hitting and tallying up your points in different ways and all sorts. It made it very interactive, and it was very good fun. It's the first time in a while I played quite well, but yeah, I'm off on a complete tangent about darts now. Sorry, but I didn't realise that
Well,
you
that's what we're
liked
playing.
darts. So there you go. I learned something
Yeah,
new.
I yeah I I think I like playing it more than I like watching it.
Oh yeah,
But
I can't sit and watch it on TV. I get bored very quickly. But playing it, love it.
yeah, yeah, no, and no, oh, absolutely useless at it myself. But definitely, thinking about this, I've considered buying a dartboard now. But
You
yeah,
should
and
buy it,
yeah,
buy it, buy it.
yeah. So yeah, maybe hopefully the next thing on my oh, it's the next thing on my list, which is probably that tool already. So yeah. Okay, number 3.
So we are now two to Star Wars, two to Star Trek. And I'm going to move us back to
Correct.
Star Wars. Let's keep this interesting. My number 3 is a game that is introduced in KOTOR 1. And I believe, yes, I'm pretty sure you can play it in KOTOR 2 as well. It's one of the mini games. It's a card game known as Pizak, which I wish with
Like
all
it.
my might that they had included in Star Wars The Old Republic, because that would have been such a nice mini game to have. They could have done it, but they didn't. Um,
I think it is one of those games that could easily be done. Whereas like pod racing, you got the timing bit, which if you're deciding actually who has come first, when you might think you have but you haven't, and stuff like that. But yeah, cards I think could be easily done, or at least against an AI maybe as well. It's
oh yeah, absolutely, it could be. And yeah, part of the reason why I love it so much is because I mean I've played KOTOR a lot. I've played KOTOR 2 several times as well. And if you ever just want to stop everything in the game and just have a little chill, Pizak's the game for you. 100%. You can just use it's a bit like in Red Dead Redemption 2. For anyone who's played that, if you've been running around being a cowboy, whether it's a good cowboy or an evil guy shooting everyone up and being all dastardly, if you get tired of all that and you just need to chill, you can go into one of the saloons, sit down, and play some poker. And sometimes I've spent like 3-4 hours game time, like actual real life hours playing poker in a game. um, it's kind of like that. It's so yeah. I had to get a mention for the simple fact of how many hours I poured into it during KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2.
I do like mini games in games that are done, especially if it's done well. I can remember a couple like ones in Grand Theft Auto when I think it was San Andreas where you had a couple of computer games uh, in it that you could play. I think and I enjoyed those. I have not. I believe it is actually a real game now, but I'm not sure how to play it, and it's one of my regrets as well. Was Star Wars? It's like I've never bought up a deck and learned how to play, and I'm glad cards have got into here at least one pick for that. So
Pizak is basically what do you call it? That 21 game. I can't even remember the name of the card game. Is it Blackjack? No, it won't be Blackjack.
mm.
It's basically you get your cards out and you have to reach as close to number 20 as possible.
ah,
It's kind of like that. And if you get closer to 20, but not over 20, then your opponent,
yeah,
you win. If you go over it, you bust. If you're under it, but
oh,
too
fair.
far under it, and then they'll beat you. It works like that. It's a very basic premise, but it
Oh,
works very well because you get your cards that add up. Then you've got cards that can take away. Then you've got cards that you could switch and either do add or subtract. And yeah, you've got all those mechanics to it.
oh, cool. Actually, got some rule unlike Fizbin, uh,
Mhm.
which basically make the rules up as you go. Apart from on a Wednesday where you don't make the rules up and bloody blah, and then you add 7 to the total and take away 5 if you fancy it, or green feather in your hair. I don't know where I'm going on that one, but yeah. No, okay, that's what I
Shoot a
should have had.
green
That's an
feather in
honourable
the hair.
mention.
I'd shoot a green feather in
Yeah,
the hair.
yeah, yeah. So that's my honourable mention. But yeah, love that you picked. Zach.
Oh,
You
fantastic.
want to know my number 3 pick?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay then. This is our first duplicate, and I don't know if you guessed this already, but when we mentioned this, but I've gone for pod racing
Yeah, there you
from
go.
episode 1. Again, good old-fashioned motor race. I know I've said that before, but yeah, okay, it's a bit violent. You have bashing each other, but yeah, the pods themselves, it's lovely. Was the separated engines and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, single pilot sheets, and you can almost make up a course, complete course of your own, and uh, do it. Yeah, some of the competitors there, and I can imagine the atmosphere of the race day being quite phenomenal, and it it would be something. Okay, it's probably the amount of deaths is probably in real life a bit too much for me, but it would be still something I would love to go and uh, watch in real life,
Oh yeah.
which is probably one of the reasons it's got so high up there. Is just like, yeah, I would love to be there and watch it. And the two commentators in episode 1, absolutely love them too.
Great, weren't they?
But
The
oh,
two-headed
so
guy.
I say, yeah, sorry, I say two feathers, one feather with two heads. So um, I had to pick this. This was probably for me. This is the main sport for either franchise, actually. But especially for Star Wars, it was just
Mm-hmm.
like this is the this is the ultimate sport. Not the best sport in my opinion, but the ultimate sport. To be honest, I I don't have much more to say, but yeah, I would like to. If it was like we had like Star Trek where you had like 20, 30 episodes a season. I wouldn't mind like a season and not an episode where you have a day in the life, so like a pod race, set up a pod racer for an event,
Mm-hmm.
and like see through the engineers, so, like almost like what's the name in the Mandalorian with her base there. I think in more was it in Mos Eisley or was it
It was
Isley
on
or was it Mos
Tatooine for
Espa?
sure, wasn't it? It might have been
Yeah,
Whisper. It was
yeah,
definitely Tatooine though. Yeah,
yeah.
that's good. Oh, I'm glad you picked that as well. Um, I was going to say something that's gone out of my head, so never mind. But
Oh, your number 2 pick.
I guess number 2, here we come. So we've got what's that? We've got 4 for Star Wars, 2 for Star Trek. So I'm going to move us into
Yes.
Star Trek. I'm surprised I'm keeping on top of the maths in my head for once. I normally can't keep track. I'm going to move us back to Star Trek, to another martial art. But this one, I think, actually is a martial art, which you first see Worf leading, everyone in their white suits, doing the slow movements, fast, fast, slow movements, fast, fast. And it's just a lovely sort of kata sequence that he's got going. So the name of this is Mokbara, I believe, which is kind of
It is.
colloquially known as Klingon Judo. So I think there's some sweeps and some sort of floor lands and throws and whatnot involved in it as well. I just think it looks really peaceful, serene, shows that side of the Klingons whilst also being ready to defend and fight back. And having the idea that the Klingons have what we would consider a self-defense sport, where Klingons are very naturally aggressive. They come across aggressive. It's always attack, 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 attack. But a lot of the moves that you see being used through Mokbara when you see Worf leading the classes are defensive. It was lovely to watch. It reminds me a lot of karate, which I really enjoy, and I wish we could see more of it. That's my nose starting to block up now. So
Yeah, no, I absolutely love Mockborough. There is a martial arts out there. Yeah, the defensive aspect is great, and I know I've mentioned Star Trek Adventures before in my groups, but yeah, one of my captains had Mockborough as a one of his not one of his talents, Yeah, it might even be talents. Whereas and we had an episode, not completely accidentally because I set it up, but he ended up using it because some Klingons invaded the ship, took over his sweet ship, and he decided to end up lecturing this Klingon on Mokbara. Uh,
Oh,
and no, I don't know if he would. No, he wasn't lecturing. He um, got him irate because he went, "Oh, do you want to see my Ojo?" And it was just like, "Oh, here you are." But he was doing an old edit of his saved program where he made sure there was deliberate mistakes in there, and it was like got the Klingon upset and used it as a distraction for getting them, which I thought was a
clever.
interesting way to do it.
Very
Um,
clever.
Because I think this Klingon wanted an honourable battle or something. I had in my head. It was just like, yeah, this person was actually Klingon was actually waiting for. Uh, Half the battle was getting the ship. The other half was, let's say, taking it home. But he had to get it a bit more
Hmm.
honourably. So he was literally waiting for the captain and I think the other crew member. Uh, who was there to actually try to win a great victory against the Federation. Simple story, but it was just like stereotypical. But I actually loved that,
Simple but
and yeah, I
effective.
loved. Yeah, and yeah, my point was I loved that he had Mokbura as one of his talents, and it it added to that character as well as to Worf as well. And I'm thinking of that conversation he had with I forgot her name, the Bajoran who unfortunately passed away in the
Oh,
show, but they were having that interaction of getting it to blindfolded, and I'm presuming he was using Motbro on that, and it was just like stick up if it's unfair.
that, that was
That's your
the
lesson.
that was the episode where she builds up her confidence, and then Picard, because she's Bajoran, sends her undercover to the Cardassians, and she doesn't survive.
Yeah,
That's right, isn't it?
yeah. Oh, we presume she doesn't
Yes,
survive.
we
We don't.
presume.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. I think everybody did actually leave her for dead, but you never know. We could have a Tasha Yar one day, episode one day, but
Indeed.
uh, who knows? Glad you picked that. Absolutely love
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. So, what is your number two?
Oh, we did mention it earlier, and
Ooh.
I'm going to go back again to Star Wars: The Old Republic. They brought in
Ah.
uh, another game, another event, and that was the swoop rally. But I had it as swoop racing because I believe, and that this happens in KOTOR. Basically, you
It
have
does.
a timed run of this, and multiple people do it. So this is the one that's not necessarily directly versus. You have a race where you have obstacles on it. Get from A to B. The base version is as fast as you can, but some just say it's to look good, um, or make as many explosions as you can on roads. But yeah, basically get from start to finish as quickly as possible, almost like a time trial in cycling. Well, it is a time trial. It's that's what it is.
Yep.
Get over this obstacle course. I I love playing it in Star Wars: The Old Republic, and it definitely is an event I would like to actually go to and watch. Uh, if it was ever entered in like a Olympic Games or anything like that, I would seriously consider getting tickets for uh, this event. Um, to add to it, it's like in Star Wars: The Old Republic. I'll use that because that's what I play. It's like you got three groups. One of them, it is literally getting from A to B as quickly as possible, going through a couple of speed ramps and a couple of loops.
Mm-hmm.
As you oh yeah, you have one where which is I don't play as much this version, but you've got to blow up a couple bit things on route, and then there is a third where I think jumping is jumping high, looking good in front of the cow, showing off in front of the cloud as you go by them is definitely yeah, good look and
I
helps you.
I love the variety that the Old Republic gives it. Obviously you can imagine KOTOR and KOTOR 2 are very old games, so the pod racing involved in that, there are obstacles, not pod racing, swoop racing that's involved in that. There are obstacles you need to get around, and those obstacles can vary, and the time that you need to do it in gets harder. But there's not much more variety beyond that, whereas there's a lovely mix of different styles in the Old Republic's version. So they've taken something classic and evolved it into something more modern and very beautiful to watch and to play. I do agree. I'd love to watch it for real life.
Yeah, and that's why it's so much higher up my list. Is yeah, it's one of those ones that is dangerous, but
Mm,
it's not necessarily once against my personal morals if this was in real life. So,
yeah, yeah, I'm with you. So
um,
that is us onto the final two picks, and we are drawing Star Trek versus Star Wars. If I've got maths right, Ben will be able to keep me honest there, but we are drawing. And he'll know as soon as I say my pick who's won, but I won't, so that's fine. And neither will you guys. So,
yeah.
my number one pick, you can actually see it, or you can see a very small portion of it in my background.
I'm trying to move my head so I can see better,
So
but I
can you
can't.
see around there? Can you see
Yeah,
around there?
yeah.
It is over here. This little blue sort of odd shape in the glass cabinet there is a tri-dimensional chess set. I can't take it out because all the pieces would fall off because it's very very sturdy and stable. But anyone who has one of these knows that it's very big, it's heavy, and the pieces slide off it very easy. I wonder if I can just tilt. There you go. I can tilt it a little bit more there. There you are. So you can just see
Oh yeah, I can
the
see
top
it. Yeah.
levels there. Um, so yeah, that's my tri-dimensional chess set. We see it first using TOS, I believe, and it recurs throughout most Star Treks. There has been a rule book made in real life for it. That version I've got there is a limited edition gold silver plated beauty, which is rarely out of its cabinet because I don't know anyone local who will play with me. Feel sad, get the tiny little violin out again, like I had for the football.
Yeah. I'll
Um,
start making a trek down to my way, and you can give it a go.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful variation on the game. I find it just makes you think very, very differently. It turns a very, well, it turns a very two-dimensional game into three dimensions, doesn't it? But you could suddenly have pieces that can flit above or below you in ways that in totally different ways to how a normal chess game would play out. And having played quite a few games of it over the years now, it's, as I say, just really it opens up your mind to looking at scenarios and ways of doing things in very different ways. It really encourages you to think outside the box, I guess is what I'm saying. And always be prepared for a surprise because you'll never see an attack coming in it. Um,
Yeah.
and because
Oh,
of my love for chess generally as well, it had to be top of my list.
yeah. This one was definitely on my honourable mentions. This one. Um, I'm glad you played. I never played it myself, but yeah, I'm glad you get this, and this could definitely be competitive.
It
I have a
takes
feeling I've gone for a more brutal line in my sports, to be honest. But
it takes a bit of practice. It takes a few games to start to get used to the rules. And me and one of my friends who I play, a friend and colleague of mine who I see in Manchester, he takes his chess set with him whenever I go down, and we'll always have at least a couple of matches over lunch in the canteen. We're starting to get a bit of a crowd whenever we do it now because it's such a unique thing, I
oh,
guess. But
you got me intrigued. Yeah.
oh yeah, I'll send you a photo after this. But what happens is what we call being consistently wrong with the rules. As long as we both agree with a particular rule, it doesn't matter whether it's a real rule or not. Because we keep ourselves right. We've got the book with the rules in it, and we keep ourselves as right as possible. But sometimes you just got to make a decision, otherwise you're going to be there all day. So we say as long as we're consistent, we don't care.
Yeah, sounds like a typical tabletop role-playing game or tabletop game.
Indeed.
It's like, yeah, you have to make a decision. So long. Yeah, I've got various books up there of role-playing games, and it's just like, yeah, you have to sometimes go, let's have that rule either because it's better or because you have to make a rule on the fly, and it's just as long as you're consistent or admit it when you make it up. Yeah,
exactly that, mate.
Change it back. Yeah.
So that is my number one pick. That means that Star Trek is currently up 1 vote. Is it going to tie Ben, or is Star Trek taking the day?
I think you've actually done your maths a little bit wrong on that one. This, but
why? How did I get it wrong? Never mind.
There is one that is actually leading, but was this? Can you smell who's going to win this one? And, or at least draw it anyway. And I'm going to go to Star Trek Voyager with a guest appearance from The Rock, aka now known as Dwayne Johnson. Most of the time ish.
Mm-hmm.
If I can say this correctly, it's a Catsy. And that's the episode where he ends up in a fight with 7 and 9, where they're fighting each other in some sort of not quite wrestling match, but almost some sort of mix between martial arts and like a fist MMA fight. Was this? When we first see it off the crew of Voyager at this event, watching what's going on, and it's like, hang on, is that 7? What's he doing there? She's not supposed to be there. And then they realise there's a issue. She's been kidnapped, and she's ends up in a fight with as we know it, The Rock. In this one, who I suppose this is the beginning, not quite the beginning of his fame, but not far off the beginning of his fame when this came out in early 2000s. So it was just like, we can say Star Trek helped make him as famous as he did, maybe.
I'll take that. I'll take that for sure.
But no, I think it's an issue for you. I don't know the exact rules. You have to press various buttons and help and stuff like that. But it's one of those ones that look entertaining without actually knowing the rules exactly.
Yeah.
And I would love to see that sport again on this one. I don't know whether it was just because it was Rock and 7 and 9 involved, but for me, it just had to be up there, mate.
No, I like it. It's a good pick. It's one I don't really remember very well either, so I'm gonna have to go away tonight and rewatch the episode. And that's what I love about this stuff as well. I mean, you're really good at throwing out some choices that I never considered, and the two from you this week were the Hut Ball and this one. They're two curveballs for me this week.
I'm glad I do that. To me, I don't know why, but it was the chess for me for you. It surprised me, even though it was on my list. So while we're here, the scores on the doors is 5 apiece. So you had Star Wars winning 2 on round 5, 2 on round 3, 1 with the swoop race on round 2 for me.
There you go. That's where I got my maths from. It was from there, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you had 2 from Star Trek in the 4th round. The final round, you had 1 each, and then it was the 1 round 2. unfortunately, I haven't got a tiebreaker this episode.
Never
Um,
mind.
but for anybody who's watching, going to YouTube, TrekWars and Fantasy, I will in the next few days have a survey up for the best thing in my community tab. So please come and add a vote into that. Um, shall we go into honourable mentions then?
Yes, I've only got one that you haven't already mentioned, and that is a Vulcan game, Calto, which you see. I remember seeing Tuvok playing it. I want to say I've seen Spock playing it at some point, but don't quote me on that because I'm actually not so sure. Definitely seen Tuvok playing it. Can create something like that so beautiful and harmonious. I
Yeah,
just
almost very much as sorry, go on.
yeah. Sorry, I was just gonna say it's just the concept really appeals to me. Is all I was gonna say.
Almost the stereotypical solitaire game, but without
Mm.
cards. It's sticks. Yeah,
Kinda, yeah, exactly that. It's one that you can just play on your own and just crack on with. But you can also play it against someone. I'm sure I've seen, keep me honest here, Ben, I'm sure I've seen an episode where it might not have been verses, but certainly they were like one of them was helping the other or coaching the other in how to do it.
yeah. I think there was a Voyager episode where Kim was there, and also actually no, I think they were about potentially about to play each other. Actually, um, yes, I think you right. I think they were playing other. I don't think you see much of the game, but I think Tuvok beats Kim again, and then I think Icheb comes in or something like that, and
Hmm.
uh, actually manages to beat him, and then yeah, it's one of those moments where it's like I shouldn't have lost him, and actually goes off and
Very
has to
Cheb.
rethink his life. Yeah. Um. So, most of my honourable mentions are going to be sports and real life here on Earth. But before we do that, I wanted to have the mention the droid fighting scene in pit fighting in Solo uh, film. Where it was just like I would love to see like a droid fighting in a game in a event or some. Just I just like the idea. I don't know where exactly I was going, but I'd love to see like a sport of droid fighting
If
there.
anyone has ever watched How I Met Your Mother, the American sitcom, uh, there's it's not quite droid versus droid, but there is something which recurs in the later seasons called robots versus wrestlers, where, as you imagine, it is a robot pitting itself against a wrestler. That scene in Solo reminded me instantly of that.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Um, I'm actually thinking about Robot Wars now, which is was a great
Yeah, that was a great show.
episode. Yeah, I think the UK version. I think the guys who won it were actually from a town not far from me, so like half an
Oh,
hour,
nice.
40 minutes. No, it's probably not half an hour. It's probably 45 minutes away from me. Yeah, it's it's a slow travel down here.
Oh, cool.
Um,
What else do you have in your honorable
yeah.
mentions then?
Okay, so the other ones I said real sports, and it was just like I had volleyball there, fencing, but the two main ones I wanted to pick out were baseball and water polo. So two of the sports the captains, so like Captain Cisco and Captain Archer with their beloved sports. Oh, and I nearly forgot one. We had a 3-on-3 basketball uh,
We did.
matches in Enterprise where Dr. Fox actually we found out doesn't move around the court very well, but a brilliant shot and is the probably the best player out of them.
Yeah, he sure
Uh,
is. That's a great reminder. And oh damn, it's gone up my head again. That's the second thing this episode that I've had an idea and it's just gone There was another sport. It wasn't enterprise though. Ah, yes, it was fencing. It was Sulu.
Oh, Sulu fencing,
Sulu
yes.
fencing. And Guinan and Picard fencing as well. That was good.
Yes. That's the one I was thinking of, but I did forget Sulu, which I shouldn't have. But
And then the target practice, Guinan and Worf. That was
yeah,
a lovely
yeah, that
scene.
one. Yeah, something like Velocity as well, which is played by Seven and Janeway.
Yep.
Uh, uh, cross between target practice and squash, I think, possibly. But that looked interesting, but yeah, it just didn't make my top top
Yeah.
five, I suppose. Um,
Any others?
no, to be honest, not really. That's about it for my this. I'm quickly checking. I did have 3D chess there, but yeah. Oh, I suppose real chess because we saw again in Enterprise Mayweather and I forgot his name now, but them playing chess in season 4. So Reed
Read, right, cool.
playing
I couldn't
chess.
remember the
Yeah,
scene.
yeah. No, uh, yeah, no, they played. And anyway, I think they got taken over by the Organians
Oh,
in an
I do
episode.
remember now. You're right. Yeah, they were taken over by those aliens. They were playing chess and talking because at the start of the scene, you're not entirely sure. Like, you've got an initial impression something might be up because they're not quite talking like they're themselves. And during the match, you kind of realize that they're not them. They're not them.
Yeah, no, interesting uh, thing there. And to be honest, if I was playing Mastermind, I would probably have season 4 there as my specialist subject, but that's
Ooh.
something there. So I like that series so much. Anyway, um, where were we going? So, any other business from you?
Not really, apart from thank you again for a brilliant conversation and run through of our top fives. I knew it was a close one this time as we were running through it, and it stayed close the whole way through.
Yeah,
But taking something which I think, well, the initial concept of this episode, we wanted to do it for the Olympics, so we had to do it. But I think I'm not sure daunted's the right word, but certainly a little bit nervous about what options possibly are
yeah,
there.
I
Because at
agree.
first thought, you can't think of many, but I think you're right. We've proven going through this, actually, you know what? There's a fair few throughout both franchises to choose from.
No, I agree, and there is a few. Yeah, and we've done enough that we haven't all picked the same pick either. There's
Yes.
only one crossover, um, and yeah, I deliberately tried not to go for the most part Earth sports. So that's already been invented before the TV series happened. So
Yeah.
yeah, I in that case, you can find me at TrekWars and Fantasy on YouTube, Twitch. Trek Wars Fantasy on Twitter because there's not enough letters to have an on there. Um, because I've got to say that every single time. I
Love
like
it.
sitting with you when you're searching for my co-host. So where can we find you?
Yes, you can find me, Olympus0511, on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, most other places, I guess. Now, just make sure that when you search for Olympus0511, do not put a space after Olympus. Otherwise, you'll get a lovely list of cameras instead of me followed by a lovely list of cameras.
Yeah, no, definitely go for it. So yeah, like that. Definitely follow on Twitch as well. That'd be nice. So
Also,
um,
also, Moopsy, because I've just realised I'm through an episode without saying
hey,
Roger, Roger.
cool. So
it.
thank you for. I just want to use the sound effects when we get to the end. So,
Exactly.
um, yeah. Again, thank you for watching, and may the force be with you. And I hope your country does well in the Olympics.
Live long
So.
and prosper. Thank you, everyone.